Hey everybody, it's Lacey. I'm coming to you with a review of the Assassination of Gianni Versace. This is episode 3, so let's get into it. So the episode starts off with Marilyn Miglin. I think that was Miglin. She's the wife of Lee Miglin, who was one of the murdered people, murder victims, I should say, by Andrew Cunanan. So she has an HSN, infomercial. She sells her own perfume. She used to sell makeup, and the perfume is called Pheromone. Okay, so she's talking about her start, and there's a young lady on there asking her questions, about her when she used to be a dancer, and when she started making makeup and started making, perfume and everything. And she talks about, the whole situation, and she was like, she just really just went through her whole career, and then goes straight to a scene where she's at the airport. She's calling her husband Lee, and he's not picking up. She's like, I can't wait any longer. I'm coming to the house. I'm gonna catch a cab. So she catches the cab. She goes to the house. She gets her bag, and the cab just pulls off. I'm like, this is Chicago, because that was rude as fuck. That is, you can definitely tell it's Chicago. So she gets into the house. She feels like a little eerie in the house, and she looks at the counter, and there's some ice cream that is melted and left on the table. Now she knows that Lee is very anal retentive when it comes to things, and you can see the way that the house is set up. So she feels something is wrong. So she immediately backs out of the house. Um, and I would too, because at that age, you can't really afford to be fucking with whatever could still be in that house. She backs up out the house. Her neighbors come by, and she's like, something is wrong. So they go through. Um, they evidently know Lee as well. So the husband of the neighbor woman that's coming with her, he tells them wait outside, and he goes and he checks everything out. Now he goes through the house. He sees the ham that Andrew has left with the knife in it. He sees the altar room that is Lee's, because he's Catholic, and he has an altar and some candles and all that, where he prays and confesses his sins and all of that. And he sees that I believe he sees that the tub has also been used, and there's towels all over the place. And so he goes downstairs and he tells them to call the police. So the police comes, they're waiting outside. The police ask, have they been in the garage? She says no. The neighbor woman, she goes and she says, oh, I'll go check it out. Just checking on her, like, Marilyn, I got this, it's fine. So her and the officer go into the garage, and the female neighbor, she immediately is like, oh, well, their Lexus is missing. And they had like 3 cars. It was nice. So the officer walks over to the other part of the garage, and he sees Lee's body just on the ground. Basically he's dead. And so basically we flash forward to a scene where Marilyn, she's tapping her nails on the counter. She feels something is wrong, but the whole women's intuition thing, when you feel something is off but you can't put your finger on it. The neighbor starts screaming, and immediately she says, I knew it. I knew he was gone. I knew something was wrong. And the lady comes in, and she kind of has no words. So I believe the scene flashes back to a dinner that they had in honor of Jim Edgar. I think he was a Republican of Illinois. I think he was a senator. And, they were honoring Lee for, his contributions. He was a major skyscraper as far as an architect goes. He major architect for building skyscrapers, and he was a major in the city of Chicago. He basically built Chicago, so they say. His wife and him, they were partners. She was ambitious, he was ambitious. They loved each other, but he was secretly gay. I picked up on it when she said he helped me paint my first boutique. I'm like, okay, all right. If the colors are pink or yellow, I'm like, or any of those off teals or something like that. Like, yeah, he's gay, sweetie, but okay. So I'm sure a lot of women know that their husbands are gay. They kind of just stay their beard because they want a nice, structured home. I kind of get that vibe from her, but I think she just never wanted to admit it. But you can tell that they were good friends and that they did love each other. And I'm like, well, that's sweet. It's sad, but it's sweet. Um, then she opens a speech for him, and she just gives all these wonderful words about him and how wonderful he is, and how he's the American dream, and he's the son of a coal miner, all these things. And he gets up, and he's actually embarrassed. You can tell he's a very shy man. He's not really one to be in front of the cameras. He likes behind the scenes, and you can tell that. Um, so he gets up, he's blushing, he's like, thank you, Marilyn, for the introduction. And he takes his award, and he makes his speech. Sorry, I don't know what the fuck going on. He makes his speech, and then he just gets off, and then that's the end of the scene. And they flash forward to the home. Him and Marilyn have gotten home. They're happy, and he was like, "Thank you for that speech. I really, I'm enamored by that. I didn't know I don't know, you kind of felt that way about me, and it really made me feel good." And she was like, "Well, of course, sweetie." And she asked him, "Do you remember the color of the boutique, my first boutique that we painted?" And he said, "Oh, no, I don't remember. It was so long ago." She said it was pink. I was like, I knew it. I don't mean to be stereotypical, and please forgive me, but I was like, I knew it. I fucking knew it. He probably picked that shit out. Yeah, that shit is pink. Yes, yeah, of course. So then she goes upstairs. She's getting dressed. She's taking off some makeup, and it's kind of the scene kind of is like taking off the facade of this perfect marriage, taking off the facade of everything, and it's not what it seems to be. As he's getting undressed, he gets a call from Andrew. Andrew's calling him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be in town. I'm in Chicago." He was like, "Oh, okay. Hold on, can you hold on for a minute?" He closes the door, and he's like, "All right, go ahead." So he gets dressed. His Marilyn is already in bed. He gets in bed. Um, then the next day, and then they're in bed. She's putting her hand out. He holds her hand. And you can see that they do love each other, but they probably shouldn't have been married to one another. They should have probably just been good Judies and just let that have been that, because he shouldn't have been married. But I do, I understand his times. He couldn't have just been gay openly. Probably, I think he went to France maybe, but not here in America. I don't believe. So, scene fast forwards to the next morning. She has to leave. She has to go to Canada to shoot, I think, her infomercial, and that's when she'll shoot the infomercial in Canada and come back, and that's when she comes back and finds him dead. But before she goes, she's like, "Well, what will you be doing?" Like giving him a whole inventory. You know how older wives, or wives, period. I don't want to say older wives be offensive, but you know how wives, give your husband the inventory. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna handle your accounts like I always do. I'm gonna handle that before you get back. I'm gonna catch up with Paul, and I think Paul is their son. Um, and then I'm gonna work, And he gets all frustrated and everything. And she was like, "Well, if you're in one of your moods, sweetie, why don't you just come with me? I love when you come with me." He was like, "You do?" He's like, "Yeah, I fucking love when you there." And he was like, "I'm proud of you. I really am proud of you. I don't know how you do it. I never could stand in front of those cameras," which I picked up, because I'm like, he seems like a very shy guy. He doesn't seem like a type of guy who's really outgoing. He even with his career, he says that Marilyn pushed him. He wouldn't be who he was without Marilyn. So in some ways, them being together has been beautiful for them and for him. But um, he's like, I couldn't be in front of those cameras, and I am just so very proud of you. And you could hear it, the sincerity in his voice. And she was like, "Well, are you coming or not? Because I gotta go. So you gotta, I gotta be on I-10 by 10. You gotta hurry this shit up. I gotta go." And he was like, "Well, I think I'm just in a mood. I'll be all right. I'm tripping, basically. So, just go ahead and go." And he gets up. She's like, okay. He gets up, he helps her up and gives her a kiss, and she kind of just stops for a moment. And it made me sad because I'm like, at least the last time they interacted with one another is pleasant and loving, but that it's still going to be the last time they interact with each other. You know, he is very old, and you hate to see somebody that old die. Well, I'm a jumping. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Well, you hate to see somebody that old die from some bullshit, from somebody else. But I'll just say that. So she goes, and then the scene flashes back uh, to after she leaves. What's his name? Lee is in the house by himself. So he's, around the house, giving him himself a drink. I think it might be scotch or something. I think it's scotch. I think that's what it looks like. Scotch. You know, all them old movies and shows people drink. They fix themselves a glass of scotch and stuff. On the rocks. Um, he gets himself a stiff drink, and then he goes upstairs into the room. He sits down in his robe. He sits down and he puts Marilyn's makeup, not makeup, but her perfume on himself. And I'm like, I think he's an older man who is, an older queen. Not to use it in a derogatory sense. And it's like, it's really sad because it just emphasizes how he couldn't be himself. And you can already pick up that he is a very shy guy, and he's very humble, and he's really not, he doesn't do too much. But he gets dressed and he goes downstairs and he goes into this one room. I think it's his garage or something. I think it's a secret room, and it has candles and a picture of Mary and Jesus. And he lights the candles and he does confession, and he basically says, I tried. And he's basically saying, like, I try not to have affections towards men. I try to fight the temptation, but I can't. And I'm like, just give in to the shit. If it's that deep, give it. Just go ahead and fuck a guy. Just give into the shit. Don't be married while you give into it, but just go ahead and give into the shit. And it's so sad because it shows you, he really is nice, and he really couldn't just be who he wants to be. And I kind of see it as vastly unfair, So then, I believe he gets a call from Andrew. After that, Andrew comes in town. He comes into the house. He parks like a block away. Comes into the house. They're talking. He's like, I'm glad to see you. He makes him a sandwich. And I think he fixes him a drink, but I think he only got a sandwich. And he's like, well, can you stay the night? And can you, be here with me? He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, when is Marilyn coming back? He's coming back Sunday. He's like, oh, well, we have time then. I was like, this is not going to go well. This is just, ugh. I hate to see this. It's unfortunate. However, show must go on. So it's like, oh, we have time. So then he takes him to a room, shows him his architect blueprints of what he's called the Sky Needle, which is going to be, I think, 25 stories or so. It's gonna be much higher than the building that they have, the Sears Tower. He's gonna be much higher than the Sears Tower, looking down onto the Sears Tower. And which I would want to build that high, because I'd hate to have another 9/11 and some shit. That shit, I hate that. That shit's too high. I get nervous. Like, no, I'm straight. I'm all right. So he's talking to him about the Sky Needle, and I think it's really exciting. I think architecture is extremely exciting. I think a lot of shit is exciting. But, he's talking to him about it, and he was like, it's the Lee Miglin building. He's like, no, you're not listening. This is the Sky Needle. This is not about me. This is not about that. And he's like, well, why are you showing this to me? And getting the attitude, getting all funky. I'm like, bitch, what is wrong with you? Like, I'm trying to show you a piece of me, that's important to me. You here, I'm just talking to you. And he was like, well, what am I here to talk to you for? Am I here to talk to you about how wonderful you are and all your accomplishments? And do you think I give a shit about, little modest Lee Miglin building that you're trying to give me? I don't show me. I don't want to see this. So what is this? And such a modest tower and all of that. He was really going in. He was just extremely disrespectful. And I realized that Lee is a very nice person, but I would have had to put that motherfucker out. Of course, he probably would have shot him. And then that's another thing. When Lee's back was turned towards Andrew, Andrew had his gun out, but then he didn't kill him right then. He didn't shoot him. um, at all. And I was like, I think you should have shot him. It would have. You shouldn't have done any of it, but it'd be a lot better than that bullshit he pulled later on in the episode. I'm like, this motherfucker, he really needs counseling. I can't wait to get deeper into the season because I want to see what makes Andrew tick. I want to see why he's the way he is. I want to see why he's so disturbed. The younger gentleman in the first episode, that was like, I'm not impressive, but he did like Andrew quite a bit. You could tell he did. He was a nice person, but I was glad he wasn't with Andrew. He hinted at him being assaulted sexually, or something to that nature by a Catholic priest, because he said he was Catholic, was pretending to be a Jew. So I think that might be one of the bigger factors. I know he was very privileged growing up because his dad, there was four of them, and he was the youngest, and he really favored Andrew. He just gave him everything, and I think that gave Andrew a sense of entitlement of give me, and if I can't get it, I'll just take it. One of those type of people. He's really narcissistic. He's just fucking just all over the place. But I'm very interested in seeing the rest of him, the rest of the season. And I'm really like enthralled in this shit. I really like the Gianni Versace. I think I like a lot of the Ryan Murphy projects personally. I think that's probably why. But getting back to the subject, well, the actual subject on hand. They end the fight, and basically Lee is like, well, I'm not here to, we don't have to talk. And I was like, that's so rude. Lee is trying to give you an inner piece of himself. Now, I don't think this is right, because Lee is married, and I don't condone cheating and shit. I'm like, you shouldn't be cheating. Marilyn does love you. I know you're gay. Just get a divorce if it's all that. People get divorced all the time, so that ain't no new shit. People been getting divorced, well, since Reagan made that no-fault divorce shit. So that shit has been rampant. So that ain't no real big deal. I mean, it's a big deal, but it ain't a big deal. Just get a divorce. Don't cheat on your wife. Now, especially not in my home. That shit would break my heart. It would piss me off. Whether you brought a man or a woman, you gonna bring a motherfucker in my house? That just like the ultimate level of disrespect. You could have took that hoe to a hotel or some shit. You could have had a secret apartment for your little affairs and whatnot. But I guess he's old, and he's probably like, well, fuck it, I ain't doing all that walking. I refuse. Fuck that shit. But yeah, I don't condone cheating, and don't bring motherfuckers in your home. You know what I'm saying? Because when shit goes down, it's your spouse that has to, pick up all the pieces. Unfortunately, as we see in this episode. So he's like, well, we don't have to talk, and he was like, they're both basically saying, you don't pretend like this. You're trying to impress me. Andrew was like, you're trying to impress me. It's what you're doing with your building and your sky needle, and and your like, you're so modest and you're so wonderful. I'm like, he is modest and he is a nice person. Yes, he has a lot of disgrace and a lot of shame in him being gay, which I don't think he should, but he comes from a different time, and this is in the 90s, so this is not 2018 where it's just like, listen, I don't give a fuck, this is what this is going to be. This is the 90s, and I can understand to a point. I get it. It's like, I'm just, you're trying to impress me and all of that. And he was like, well, you're trying to act like as if we have a connection, like this isn't about money, and like this isn't about your influence, and all of that. Lee was like, well, you're trying to pretend. And Lee was like, well, you can pretend too if you wanted to, Andrew. And Andrew, then he looks at him and he kisses Lee very passionately. And Lee starts to shudder, and he's like, oh God, like, I can't believe this is something I've always wanted, basically. And Andrew tells Lee, I can be anything to you. I could be like a husband. I can be like a boyfriend. I can do whatever you wish. And I can be wherever you want me to be. And, Lee basically says, I'm not stupid. I know this isn't real, but you just the way you are makes this real for me. And it's so sad because this ain't going to end well. And it's like, no, Lee, get out of here. I know you probably got gout and arthritis in your knees, so you can't probably move that fast, but you still need to get out of here. So, the fuck out of here, Lee. You about to die, my nigga. It's unfortunate. I kind of like Lee. This shit is sad. So, they kissed, and then he's like, come with me. Like, and Lee was like, where are we going? Andrew's down. You come with me. We're going to go somewhere. We're going to make a mess, and you're not even have to worry about it. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know how this is gonna go, but this ain't gonna go well. So, basically, he takes him in the basement. He stuffs something in his mouth, and Lee, he becomes real submissive because he's ready, to be fucked and to fuck. He's ready for the experience. You got an escort there. I want my money's worth. I'm paying you, goddammit. I want my motherfucking money's worth. So he's ready for the full experience with Andrew. Andrew's young. He's very, he's intelligent. He's well spoken. He's articulate, and he's very handsome. And Lee's just ready to feel him and to be filled, and you can tell it. So he's being submissive. He's getting this cloth stuff in his mouth. First of all, that's strike one. Where the fuck did that cloth come from? I'm not comfortable with putting shit in my mouth, and I don't know where that's from. That's a point where you're too horny. You're too ready to just put shit in your mouth. Where the fuck did this shit come from? I'm not comfortable personally. Like, I want to know that shit has to come directly out of the washer and the dryer after the washer and dryer have been cleaned. And that's the only way you can put some shit in my mouth. And then even then, that depends. You're just too horny. You're not paying attention at all. Like, that was strike one for me. I'm like, fuck this. Where did that even come from? What is that? It took me a few episodes. I'm really trying to watch it. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Putting shit in your mouth? You're not a toddler. Take that shit out. I mean, putting random shit in your mouth. When people put random shit in your mouth, that's not okay. You're too old for this shit, Lee. The fuck are you doing? My God, you're slipping, buddy. And yeah, for somebody to be so anally retentive about cleanliness and hygiene, like, you're really gonna put some random shit, you gonna let him put random shit in your mouth? I thought you were, what the fuck? But anyway, so he puts it in his mouth, blah, blah, blah. That's first strike. Second strike, he brings out some electrical duct tape. I'm like, see, I don't like this. I quit. I think we should reschedule. And this should end right here. I don't want shit typed or taped. I don't like none of that around my head and shit, my hands and arms. So he tapes his mouth and his head and all that. He leaves his a hole open so that he can breathe through his nose because he got his mouth completely covered, which thank goodness. Because that shit from the second episode where you trap homeboy's whole face up, I would have panicked completely. Talking about, he's right, sitting up there talking about accept it. Like, fuck no, I'm not accepting this. I want oxygen. So he tapes his mouth and he's ready and he's trying to do kinky shit. Some BDSM kinky shit. So he lays him down and he lays on the ground. He's still being submissive and he's ready for the full experience. He doesn't quite understand which experience he's about to get, which is unfortunate, but he's ready for the whole experience. He ties up his feet. I don't know what he does with his hands. And he sits on his chest. And he says, you know what? I know, and he said, you're so dominant in here. You're so submissive in here, sorry. But outside in the real world, you're so dominant and you're so submissive here, and it's basically like mocking him, but kind of getting a kick out of it, but yet still being kinky about it. So he lays him on his back and he busts him in his nose. He punches Lee in the nose. Now keep in mind, Lee is an old motherfucker. That is an old person. That man is old as Methuselah. He's old as fuck. He looked like if you blow on him too hard, dust will spray everywhere. He like, when you ever been in a nursing home, or if you work there or you're there for a family member, you see people where they gotta change the beds, and when they take the sheets off, it's like skin shit all over coming off the bed. It's one of them shits. He looks that old. He's old as Methuselah. Okay, it looks like snow. If you blew on him, snow would come off of him. It's got skin cells everywhere. So he's old, and older people, I know that was rude as fuck, but it was funny to me. Older people, everything is really sensitive because they're old. They're expiring. And we're all expiring as we speak, but they're like really close to the shits. They are very close. So you're breaking bones and shooting them and stabbing them, and you know shit is disorderly in them, and they have sores and shit like that. It's very hard for them to recover. So you can imagine the pain that he can feel when he breaks his nose, because he immediately just starts bleeding profusely, and then Lee got on top of, and Andrew got on top of Lee, and he did something I really, out of all the things I don't like about Andrew, this is one thing I really didn't like. He basically used um his self hate and his homophobia against Lee, and Lee is already struggling with his sexuality as a man. He knows what he wants and he knows who he is, but he cannot be himself proudly, and so he was basically like the whole was. I know you don't have your hearing aid in, but I'm just gonna say this loudly so you can hear me. I'm basically about to expose you. Everybody's about to find out that you're gay, that you've been closeted homosexual, and now they're about to know that you've been homosexual. He said, I'm gonna put some women's panties on you, and you're gonna be surrounded by homosexual porn, pornography, whatever. You're gonna be surrounded by homosexual porn, and he's like, the whole world is going to know that Chicago's greatest architect built Chicago with a limp wrist. And I really didn't like that. I'm like, he has a lot of self-hate, and you can tell he can tell he does. He doesn't like himself for being gay. He doesn't like other gays, but then he does. And it's like, I don't really, well, that's one of the things I don't like about him. The other one is coming up very soon, unfortunately. So, he just lets him know, he just says, what's worse, death or to be disgraced? And Lee basically starts crying because he's like, what the fuck? I didn't want all this. I just wanted to fuck. I'm like, that's why you don't cheat. But I still don't think he deserved to die like that. That's real fucked up. So, that shit blew my mind. And he said, Andrew got up and he said, well, apparently it's disgrace. And he said, concrete can build, but concrete can kill. So this motherfucker, he proceeds to pick the concrete up and drops it on all of Lee's ribs. And again, this is a very elderly man. They got that shit. It don't take that much for them to just die. You don't take that much, and you drop the whole cinder block on his chest. So you can imagine he probably immediately died. He probably crushed his lungs, heart, everything. His rib cage probably, punctured his heart or some shit. And, and that's just with the regular function of the body. Is no telling, he could have been on blood thinners. He could have been on all types of medications that could have helped the blood flow very quickly without, stopping it down, without contraction or anything of that nature. So I think Lee died right then, and he dressed him up in women's panties, and he had a homosexual porn all around him, and he left his body in there like that. And he this is how much of don't give a fuckness and I want to get caught so I can be famous shit that Andrew has. This motherfucker spent a night or two in the house. After he done killed Lee, he took that ham from the fridge, that ham that Lee used to make Andrew a sandwich earlier, and he stuck it on top of his, architecture blueprints, and he stabbed it into the ham. He left it up there. He slept in the bed. He used the tub, and he was chilling. And I think he ate ice cream, and he left it out there, letting Marilyn know that I was here, because Marilyn knew something was wrong. So he was just basically letting Marilyn know, I had your man and I killed your man, and that was that. So then we fast forward to the scene where I think the sheriff or something of that nature, somebody, he comes into the scene scene of the crime. He goes into the garage and he sees Lee naked, face covered in tape, blood. They alert the other officers, and I think the crime scene investigator. They basically said, well, all his ribs are broken, every last one. Um, and they just let him know all his ribs are broken. And so he's like, what the fuck? He's like, don't let anybody know what happened here. Only give out information that an elderly man has died. Do you hear me? That's the only information you give out. They say, yes, sir. He goes in the house. He goes and he sees Marilyn. And one of Lee's business associates, I believe, it could be family and a business associate, because you know how people are, with companies. Sometimes they trust their family, sometimes they don't. When they can trust their family, they trust them all the way. He says to Marilyn, I want you to know this has nothing to do with Lee's business. She's like, of course it doesn't. I know that. And we all know that. She goes to the officer, I think the sergeant or whatever. He comes in the room. He introduces himself. She says, hello. Hi, this must have been a robbery. Because basically she's in denial. She's not in denial, but she's just trying to play her role. She's playing her part all the way up to his funeral. And she, it is what it is. I think she knew he was gay. I think they just understood what it was. Because I know people can try to play like they don't know things, but you know when something is off. You know when, especially with your man, if your man it does not, he likes you, but he don't really like you. You know. You might say you don't, but you don't pay attention to the signs, and you overlook them, and you think, oh, it's nothing. But she basically told him, oh, this is nothing more than an opportunity. Is an opportunistic robbery, is what she said. They took $2,000. His secretary dropped it off. There's some gold coins missing, which is interesting. Goes to the gold coin that Andrew pawned that belonged to Lee. There's gold coins that are missing. There are socks that are missing. There's the Lexus is missing. There's a whole bunch of stuff missing. And the sergeant says to Marilyn, listen, I want you to understand, I'm here for you in your time of need, but I do want to let you know that your husband was found with some items. At first he didn't want to talk about it, but then she's like, well, whatever you can say, just go ahead and say it. I'm not gonna die. And so he's like, well, your husband is in women's underwear. He's surrounded by homosexual pornography. Sorry, I think pornography. He wanted to say pornography. I don't fucking know. Y'all, it's been a long day. I can't. He's surrounded by homosexual pornography. And she was like, listen, it must be from the intruder. I'm like, it might be, but then again, it might not be, because with Lee, you never know, he might have secret stashes. So she's like, I'm not interested in all of the particulars, and I'm not interested in the state of mind he's in. I just want you to catch him. And it was like, the sergeant was like, this lady is delusional, but okay, I understand. So he goes, and they basically put an APP out on Andrew, on the murderer. And they come back. By that time, I think the son Paul is there, and they ask her in front of Paul, and they ask Paul, are you aware of a man named Andrew Cunanan? And I just even saying his name is just so interesting. Cunanan. Anyway, are you aware of a man named Andrew Cunanan? She was like, no, I don't think so. And I don't know the real story. She might have been aware of him. She might not have been. But I think with the real Lee Miglin, I do believe Andrew Cunanan was involved with not only Lee, but I could be wrong, but I think it was Lee and Lee's son Paul, if that's his son's name. So from what I've been researching, Andrew was involved with Lee and his son, which is some crazy shit. That's some old Tom Brady shit, with him kissing his son and him kissing his daddy and shit. That's what that shit is. I'm like, oh, okay. That's how we gonna keep it in the family. That not with that. That's nasty. But all right, we don't keep lovers in the family. You're not supposed to share everything. That's not what we do here. But I guess some families are just disgusting like that. So he asked, "Do you know Andrew Cunanan?" And she's like, "No." He's like, "He killed somebody else, and he took their Jeep, and he parked that Jeep a block away from this house, and he's basically said we're looking for him now." Um, she was like, "Listen, I don't care what happens, just find him. I don't want to hear anything else, anything other than you finding Andrew. That's what I wanted. I want him to pay for what he did, basically." So then we go to the police department. The sergeant is told by two of his officers that the phone in Lee Miglin's car has been binging, and it bings and it turns, and the GPS in the phone turns on every time the engine turns on. Which for 1997, that's a dope ass car. For 1997, that's a very nice car, and they were ahead of their times. So they're basically saying they can find every time Andrew starts the car, they're tracking him, and he doesn't even know it. And the sergeant was like, "Listen, don't let nobody get to this information." They said, "Cool, got it." Then later on in the show, this pissed me off so bad. Like, are you fucking serious? Like, y'all dropped the ball in every possible opportunity. Just dropped it. It's like watching the New York Knicks. You suck. What the fuck, man? God. So this motherfucker, one of the officers gonna come back to the sergeant. He's like, somebody leaked the story to one of the Chicago radio stations, and now they're announcing on the radio station that Lee Miglin's car is being tracked by the cell phone in his car. The sergeant, rightfully so, is pissed the fuck off, and he knocks everything the fuck off his desk. And at that point, I don't have a desk, not yet, but I wanted to knock shit off my desk. I wanted to knock shit off my dresser, but then I thought, who's gonna pick that up? Then I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not that mad. Plus, this happened in '97. It's over, so fuck it. So he gets mad, and it makes me mad because while Andrew was driving, he's listening to the radio, and he's going back and forth between stations. He stops at one station, and he hears the announcement that the police are tracking his raggedy fucking ass by the phone in the car that belongs to Lee. And so he basically begins to destroy the phone. He's pissed and he's panicking at the same time. He destroys the phone and he rips it out, and he gets out the car and rips off the antenna on top of the car so they can't trace it. So they can't try to make sure they can't trace it, but they probably still could. So he pulls over eventually into some lot where there's a graveyard or some shit, and he pulls the car over and he parks it there, and he just sits there for a while. And then there are people coming out, and then for a while there's nobody comes out of the building. And then there's an elderly lady. It's him and old people. He's got to have some type of white supremacist thing about him, because you're going after soft targets and shit. Like, just go fuck yourself. But he sees this old lady, and he's about to rob her. I think they're about to kill her for her car. But there's another elderly man that comes out, and he doesn't look at Andrew, I don't believe. But Andrew, he stops, and he was about to rob that older woman, but he didn't, because that older man was standing right there. So he goes and he stands in the middle of the parking lot, and he sees a red truck pull up, and he sees it's an older gentleman, but he doesn't look that old, getting out the car. And so I think the older man, he proceeds to go into this funeral home. I think he was a groundskeeper or something to that effect. And he goes in. Andrew comes in after him, not too long, shortly after. And he has a gun now. He said, "Listen, I don't want no trouble. I just want to take your car. Is there a place I can lock you up at?" He was like, "Yeah, the basement has the lock." So they go down in the basement. So he gets on his knees, and he basically says, "Sir, listen, I don't want any issues. I just want you to hear what I have to say. Hear me out." And he said, "I'm married and I have a boy. Me and my wife, we have a son. And I really would want to see my son again. And his name is Troy, and I really do love him. And before the old boy with the red truck could finish, Andrew blew his fucking head off. I said, bitch, you ain't shit. You ain't never been shit and never will be. You just ain't shit. I don't know what happened to you, but at this point, I don't even give a fuck no more. You simply are not shit. You just ain't. I'm like, god damn. There's a part of me that didn't like him for being a murderer, but did like parts of him because he's so fucking mysterious. And I like mysterious shit. And I'm like, you know what, bitch? I can't wait to see the rest of the season, but you ain't shit. It don't matter what part of the season it is. You just ain't shit. It never will be. And that's what it is. So he takes his car and he rolls off. And so then the next scene goes back to Marilyn, and she's fixing her makeup, and her the company, that one gentleman from the company that works with Lee, he comes in, and he was consoling her and everything, and letting her. He gave a brief rundown about what's going on out there, and she basically said, "Oh, so I guess they think I don't love him because I'm not breaking down." She said, "I know what they're saying. For a woman who cares so much about appearances, how could you not appear to care?" And she basically was saying that, she's not going to break down just yet. But then she proceeds, she says, we had a fairy tale life. We had love. We had X, Y, and Z. We had this and that and woo-de-woo. And he was my partner. He treated me as an equal. I loved him. I loved him so much. And then she begins to break down. And I feel it everywhere inside my heart. I'm like, this woman is a phenomenal actress. I'm like, I could feel that love. I could feel that energy. And it made me feel bad, for the actual Marilyn. I don't know about this lady because I don't know her name. But it made me feel bad for the actual Marilyn. She was like, he rescued me in the desert. We rode in hot air balloons together. Who can say they had a type of love? And I'm like, I don't know. And she was just crying. And she started to just cry. She was like, now. And she just became unglued and undone. She's like, do I love him enough now? Is that better now? And the other man, he was just standing there. And you could tell nobody knows what to say. Because he just got killed for no reason other than old boy is crazy. See, that's why you shouldn't be cheating. And don't bring the motherfucker in my house, because then I gotta come home. I'm supposed to be relaxing and shit. I'm an elderly woman, and I gotta come home and find you surrounded by gay porn and shit because you're cheating with a crazy motherfucker. Don't cheat, and don't bring the shit in my house. I don't know why motherfuckers just have no decency. You don't shit where you eat. Okay? You just don't. Don't bring motherfuckers. It could be, I don't give a fuck if it was a woman. Don't bring that motherfucker around my house. It'll be a crazy bitch. It could turn into some old fatal attraction shit. Next thing you know, you got a rabbit and some stew. Don't bring motherfuckers like that in my house. So that pisses me off. So now she's basically has to console herself, and she has to pull it together. So the last scene, she's on the HSN Home Shopping Network again, and she's the other younger black lady she's working with. She says, we want to give you our sincerest condolences. And she was like, it's all right. She basically talks about how she loved him so much, and how he was her other half, and how somebody just killed him for a car. I'm like, and other things. Well, he died for no reason really. And she was like, how he inspired my dreams. He encouraged my dreams. He's like, how many of our men treat us as equals, with respect, as an equal partner. I'm like, shit. Some of them still don't do that shit to this day. It's 2018. So I'm like, shit, I feel you, girl. I feel you. God damn, I'm really sorry for you. And so, she was like, the other lady was like, are you okay to go on? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. She said, basically, she got advice from her good friend, something Connors. She told her, when you look into the camera, look at the red light and think about as if it's the man that you love. And just stopped right there, and you can see her closing her eyes and really being sad, being depressed really, because her man is gone. Of course, he's been gone, but he's like gone physically. So that was the end of the episode. That shit was utterly depressing, but it really went into how manically insane Andrew is. And I think the future episodes will go deeper. and I am ready for it. I am disturbed greatly, but I am here for it. So I'm gonna review some more episodes. I think I'm gonna get into some American Horror Stories, especially the Cult. Cult was my shit. I love Cult. But I will see you guys another time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I love you guys. Peace out.